They say your 10th anniversary should be a diamond milestone. A celebration of resilience, laughter, love, memories that shimmer like glass. For me, it shattered like one too. I spent weeks planning that evening. I bought a dress that shimmered like the night sky, took a day off work to decorate the rooftop he proposed on, and even ordered his favorite wine from Napa Valley. I invited all the people who mattered to us over the last decade, his parents, my sister, our mutual friends. I made a slideshow. A freaking slideshow. Pictures from our wedding, silly selfies from our vacations, our first dog, even that disastrous camping trip where it rained the whole weekend but we laughed under a broken tarp. I was a fool. He showed up half an hour late. Wearing a smirk I should have paid more attention to. When I reached for his hand in front of the crowd, he didn't hold mine back. He cleared his throat, raised a glass, and said something I'll never forget. To new beginnings, he toasted. And freedom. Then he pulled a white envelope from his coat and handed it to me. The silence was so loud I could hear my heartbeat and my best friend Lily's wine glass tremble against the table. I opened it. Divorce papers, not a joke. Not some ironic gift, and the worst part, he laughed. Guess 10 years is long enough to realize someone isn't the one. People laughed with him, awkward, nervous chuckles. His parents smiled like this was all part of some twisted plan. I stood there holding the envelope, blinking away humiliation and tears, trying not to let my mascara run in front of 50 people, and then he leaned into the mic and added, "Let's be honest, Claire, if I wanted to be with a working hag forever, I would have just stayed single." That part hurt. Because I worked damn hard to build myself up. I helped him through business school. I picked up shifts to pay for his startup. I gave him 10 years of loyalty, support, and love. And in return, I got a punchline. I didn't cry that night. I didn't scream. I didn't throw wine in his face. I just walked off the rooftop. Into the elevator. Out of the building. I took my heels off halfway down the street and walked barefoot until I hit the corner of my own life. That was the day Claire died, and the new Claire? Oh, she was just getting started. After that night, the world went quiet. He left our apartment saying he deserves a much better place and I was alone, not literally. People still texted. Called. Some even showed up at my door under the pretense of checking on me while clearly just fishing for gossip. But inside? It was like someone had unplugged the stereo of my soul. No music. No buzz. Just a high-pitched numbness humming in the background. I spent the first 2 weeks in silence. Didn't answer the door. Didn't return calls. I took a leave of absence from work and ignored every message from him, yes, even the one that said, "You had to know this was coming." No, I didn't. And even if I did, not like that. Not on our anniversary. Not in front of people. Not with a punchline, the sad part? I wasn't even mad at first. Just tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of being the one who tried. Tired of loving someone who saw me as a stepping stone and then complained I left footprints. I kept replaying things in my head. The little moments that should have been red flags, the way he stopped saying I love you like it was a habit he outgrew. How he spent more time texting someone named Mark than he did looking at me during dinner. How he said he needed space but was always out with people I never met, and I blamed myself for a bit. Isn't that what we're conditioned to do? Maybe I should have dressed better. Maybe I should have gone to more of his work events. Maybe if I'd been a little more exciting, a little less safe, he wouldn't have tossed me aside like a subscription he forgot he signed up for. But one morning, I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize the woman staring back. Her hair was flat. Her eyes dull. Her mouth silent. And I thought, what if he didn't break me? What if he just revealed the cracks I stopped noticing? So I did something crazy. I turned my phone back on. I called Lily. "Let's talk," I said, and I told her everything. She cried more than I did. Swore she always hated the smug way he spoke over me. Said she noticed him flirting with his assistant last year but didn't want to say anything unless I saw it too. That conversation broke the dam, I told my boss. My family. Even his mother said, well, sweetie, you know how men get when they feel stuck. Like he was the victim of me keeping him too grounded, too loved, too supported. I realized then, I was never the problem. I was the parachute he cut because the sky looked prettier without me in it, but I also realized something else, I had the power now. The silence? That was just the quiet before the rebuild. Before the storm I was about to become, so I lawyered up, and when I pulled out the folders, the receipts, the transfers, the credit card statements with weekend charges from hotel stays he never explained, I wasn't scared. I was calm. Cold, because while he thought he was leaving me behind, he forgot. I helped build the life he wanted to abandon, and now, I was going to take it back. You'd be surprised how much clarity you gain when you start gathering the pieces people tried to bury you under. The first thing I did? I made a spreadsheet. I'm not kidding. Years of bills, joint accounts, mortgage documents, his sudden business expenses, my paycheck stubs. Every dollar I put into our shared life. Every debt we acquired. Every trip I paid for. Every red flag I had once smoothed over with excuses. I laid it all out, line by line, like a map through our marriage and the wreckage he left behind. My lawyer, God bless her ruthless soul, looked at the folder I brought her and said, Claire, we're going to burn him with this. Good. I didn't want mercy. I wanted justice. I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted to stop being the woman people pitied and start being the one people feared walking away from. He served me papers? Great, now it was my turn. While he was out playing bachelor with his buddies and chasing validation from women who didn't know the first thing about him, I filed my response. I countered. I went for the house, the car, my share of the business I helped him launch from our living room while eating ramen noodles. I even demanded the dog, his, technically, but guess who actually took it to the vet, trained it, fed it, walked it every morning for 4 years. I was done pretending I didn't build the empire just because I wasn't the face of it. And yet, as empowering as that was, the emotional fallout came in waves. Some nights I'd be fine, making dinner while blasting Beyoncé. Then suddenly I'd remember the way he used to touch my lower back when he thought I looked good, and my knees would buckle. Other times I'd cry because of the sheer weight of being lied to for years. Loving someone who smiled at me in the morning and planned my public humiliation by evening, I wanted to feel nothing. But grief doesn't care what you want, so I let it in. I screamed into pillows. I deleted all our photos. I boxed up my wedding dress and took it to the thrift store, leaving it on the curb without looking back, and then, something wild happened. I started to feel lighter. I got back into therapy. I started journaling, something I hadn't done since college. I took a painting class just to remind myself I could create beauty even when everything felt ugly. I went to dinner alone. I wore red lipstick for the first time in years. And not because anyone told me to, but because I liked how it looked. The more I picked up the pieces, the more I realized they didn't fit into the old shape of my life. That life? It was dead. Gone with the woman who thought her worth depended on keeping a man happy, so I stopped trying to rebuild the past. Instead, I started something new. Something mine. By the time court dates were being set, and the depositions were flying back and forth, I didn't even flinch. He tried to act smug. Tried to talk down to me in front of the mediator, cracking jokes like we were still at that rooftop party. But I didn't laugh. I just watched him squirm when my lawyer slid over the evidence, and I smiled, because this time, I had the upper hand. This time, I wasn't the broken wife, I was the storm he didn't see coming. I didn't cry when I signed the divorce papers, I didn't scream or throw anything. I didn't beg for answers or plead for closure. The tears had already dried, the heartbreak had already healed into something sharper, resolve. If he thought blindsiding me on our 10th anniversary would break me, he didn't understand the woman he married at all. No, what broke me came before years of emotional starvation, quiet disrespect, and small cruelties wrapped in fake laughter. The moment he handed me those papers in front of all our friends, I realized I was free. And I planned to make that freedom count. The divorce proceedings were swift. He thought I'd walk away quietly. He underestimated how thoroughly I kept receipts. He forgot that I was the one paying the bills. That the house was in my name. That the investments, the savings, the assets, we built them with my salary while he played pretend entrepreneur. Hopping from projects to passions that never made a dime, he thought he could walk out with my dignity and half my life in his pocket. Instead, he walked out with nothing. When my lawyer laid everything out in court, his lack of financial contribution, the way he tried to claim joint assets while secretly opening a private account with money he siphoned from our shared funds, he paled. Suddenly, the arrogant smirk disappeared. He demanded alimony. He claimed he was accustomed to a certain lifestyle. The judge raised an eyebrow, flipped through the paperwork, and asked, "And what exactly did you do to contribute to this lifestyle, Mr. Rowan?" Silence. He thought charm would carry him. He thought I would fold. But he forgot who he married. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just sat there, dressed in calm confidence, and let the truth do the talking. In the end, I kept the house, the car, the joint accounts. He walked away with his clothes, some books, and the reality of what it feels like to burn down your life thinking you'd rise from the ashes, only to find you were never the fire. He moved back in with his parents. Back into that tiny bedroom where he once thought the world owed him something. I heard through a mutual friend that he told people I manipulated the system. That I took him for everything. Let them believe it, let them whisper, because here's the truth. I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. I simply refused to keep giving pieces of myself to a man who wouldn't even give me respect. And if the cost of my peace was him returning to the safety net he never truly left, then so be it. Let him sit in his childhood bedroom, surrounded by old trophies and empty excuses, while I rebuild in a home I earned, in a life I'm finally proud of. He handed me divorce papers like they were a punishment, but all he did was set me free. It started small. A new haircut. Nothing drastic, just something that didn't scream 10th anniversary dumped wife. Something softer around the face, but sharper in spirit. Then came the wardrobe. Not to impress anyone. Just to remember what it felt like to dress for me. To wear heels because I wanted to hear the click of confidence with every step, not because he liked how they looked on me. I traded in his old oversized college hoodie for a tailored blazer that said, "You can't break me, you just reminded me who I am." And it wasn't just the outside. No, the real glow-up was in my spine, in my voice, in the way I walked into rooms like I owned them. Because I did, figuratively and, thanks to the court ruling, quite literally. He never saw that part coming. See, when a man leaves you thinking you'll fall apart without him, the last thing he expects is for you to rise. But oh, I rose. Higher than I ever did with him weighing me down. I rejoined the workforce full-time, no more part-time hours supporting his dream. I got a promotion within 2 months. People actually listened when I spoke in meetings, and I didn't have to check his calendar first to see if I was allowed to stay late. I was free to be ambitious without feeling guilty about making more than him, and the funny part, people noticed. Old friends who had drifted away came back around. New ones emerged. I didn't realize how much I'd been hiding under his shadow until I stepped out of it and saw people looking at me like I was the damn sun. I remember the first time I posted a photo of myself online after the divorce. Just a simple brunch selfie with Lily. No caption. No shade. Just me, laughing, wine glass in hand, glowing from peace and pain and the power of moving on. His reaction came in minutes, a text, "Wow." That didn't take long. And that was the moment I knew I was winning. He expected me to wither. He thought I'd grovel. Wait for him. Wallow. Instead, I was becoming everything he tried to convince me I wasn't. The next few weeks were filled with firsts. First solo trip. First time sleeping in the middle of the bed without guilt. First time being flirted with and actually flirting back. First time realizing I didn't miss him, I missed the version of me I had to kill to keep him comfortable. That woman was gone. This one? She was magnetic, fierce, untouchable, and guess who started asking around? Yep, Mr. Divorce on anniversary himself. Calling mutual friends. Liking old photos. Accidentally bumping into me at a gallery opening I had posted about. Suddenly he was the one chasing closure, but it was too late, he gave up his seat in my life. Now he could watch me from the sidelines like everyone else. This wasn't revenge, this was evolution. Regret looks different on every man. On my ex? It looked like desperation hidden behind designer cologne and forced smiles. It was subtle. A hey text at 1:43 a.m., as if I'd mistake him for a late-night craving. Then came the weak excuses to see me. I forgot my watch at the house. I think I left some tax documents behind. Oh, please, he didn't want a watch. He wanted a window. A peek into the life I was building without him, and what he saw? It burned, because I wasn't crying in a bathrobe watching reruns, like he probably imagined. I was thriving. The house was cleaner. Lighter, like the air had cleared the second he walked out and took his toxicity with him. I'd redecorated the living room. Swapped out our old pictures with art I actually liked. Put my name alone on the mailbox. Even the dog stopped moping and started sleeping better. Then one afternoon, as I was pulling into my driveway, I saw him standing on the porch. Like he had any right to be there. Claire, he started, hands shoved in his pockets, trying to look casual. You look good. I stepped out of the car, locked it behind me, and raised an eyebrow. What do you want? He chuckled. No hug for your ex-husband? I didn't answer. Just unlocked the front door and waited. Listen. He said, following me up the steps, I've been thinking. Maybe we acted too fast. The audacity, you handed me divorce papers during a toast, I said flatly. What exactly was too fast? The filing or the public humiliation? He rubbed the back of his neck, all boyish charm he used to weaponize. I wasn't myself. I made mistakes. But you're doing great now. Maybe we could talk. Just us. That was it, that was his angle. He saw me rising. Saw the life he abandoned looking better without him in it. And suddenly, he wanted it back, not because he missed me, but because he missed the version of himself who looked successful with me on his arm. My revenge wasn't petty. I didn't yell. I didn't slam the door in his face. I smiled. You're right, I said. We should talk. His eyes lit up, so I talked. I told him exactly what I'd taken, the house, the car, the retirement savings I helped build, my freedom, and what did he have? An apartment he could barely afford. Credit card debt he thought was invisible. A string of women who figured him out faster than I did. And now, a reputation. One he earned. I didn't need to destroy him, he did that all by himself. He stared at me, jaw clenched. So that's it? You're just done with me? I met his gaze, calm and steady. I was done the minute you made me a punchline. Then I closed the door, and this time, I locked it. You'd think that after serving me divorce papers in front of an entire rooftop full of friends and family, my ex would have the decency to disappear. But cowards rarely go quietly. He started small texts, calls, the kind of late-night messages that reeked of loneliness and whiskey. Then came the unexpected run-ins, the sudden interest in checking in, the nostalgic photos he sent like postcards from a past he scorched. But when he realized I wasn't answering, that I wasn't holding my breath for his crumbs, he did what most entitled men do when they start losing control. He called in reinforcements, his parents. I should have known something was up when his mother showed up at my door holding a box of muffins and an apology that barely stretched across her thin smile. Claire, sweetheart, can we talk? She said as if we were two old friends catching up, not the woman she once called too ambitious for a wife. I didn't invite her in, but that didn't stop her. I know he made mistakes, she said, sitting on my couch like it still belonged to her bloodline. But he's not the same. He's been miserable. He's lost without you. I nodded slowly, letting her talk. Letting her fill the air with excuses and desperation. watching her squirm in the silence that followed my disinterest. People make mistakes, she added. And you were always the glue, Claire. Maybe it's not too late. Oh, but it was. I remembered this woman clearly, how she clutched her pearls when I made more than her son. How she whispered to her sisters that I emasculated him by being the breadwinner. How she stood there, smug, when he humiliated me, and never once called afterward to ask how I was. But now that her precious son was spiraling, now that the court had ruled in my favor and the house she once called theirs had my name on the deed, now she wanted to play nice. I didn't bother responding. The next visit came from his father. The same man who once laughed when his son mocked my cooking in front of guests. He brought wine, tried to talk to me like we were on the same team. You two had something special, Claire. Don't throw it away just because he made a mistake. He's lost a lot. Maybe you can help him get back on his feet. Help him, again. It was laughable, really, how they expected me to stitch back the mess he made, to hand over forgiveness like it was candy and not something he burned when he thought he'd never need it. And as the weeks passed, the messages from his side of the family poured in, cousins, aunts. Even his sister, who hadn't spoken to me in years, suddenly wanted to get coffee and catch up. Every conversation was the same subtle manipulation. He didn't mean it. He was confused. You guys were good together once, don't let bitterness win. Bitterness, they had no idea, this wasn't bitterness. This was clarity. This was standing up after being knocked flat and realizing I liked the view better from the top. And my ex? He didn't stop either. He started sending gifts, jewelry, a letter, a playlist of our songs. A photo of us from our honeymoon with a note on the back, we were magic once. I almost laughed. No, we weren't magic. I was a magician. I made happiness out of neglect. I conjured love from crumbs. I turned silence into strength. And the best trick of all, I made him disappear. They thought I'd break, that I'd crumble under pressure. That I'd be flattered by his regret. That I'd want the man back who thought I was disposable until I proved I wasn't. But I didn't break. I rebuilt, stronger, louder, unapologetically me. I used to walk on eggshells. I didn't realize it until I stopped. Until the silence in my home wasn't laced with tension. Until I could breathe without feeling like I owed someone an explanation for existing the way I wanted. Back then, I dimmed myself so he could shine. I softened my opinions so he wouldn't feel small. I planned my life around his schedule, his dreams, his comfort. I thought compromise meant swallowing my needs and calling it maturity. Not anymore. Now? I wake up every morning with no one telling me what I should be doing. I work hard, I rest harder. I spend my weekends however I damn well please. I book solo trips without asking permission. I paint at midnight if I feel like it. I read entire books in silence, wrapped in my own peace, not guilt. My life is mine now. Every hour. Every choice. Every smile that doesn't have to be filtered through his approval, and for the first time in years, I feel whole. It's funny how people love to throw around the word selfish when a woman chooses herself. When she says no more. When she stops playing the role of caregiver, therapist, cheerleader, and doormat rolled into one. But I've learned this, taking back your life isn't selfish, it's sacred. My finances? In my control. No more pretending we're partners while I carry 80% of the weight. No more bailing him out. No more investing in his half-baked ideas while mine sat on a shelf collecting dust. I started a side project, a blog that turned into a business. I began mentoring younger women, telling them everything I wish someone had told me at the start. That love isn't supposed to feel like sacrifice all the time. That being alone isn't failure. That freedom can feel like power dressed as peace. As for dating? I dipped a toe into it, but slowly. Carefully. On my terms. I wasn't looking for another man to rescue me or complete me. I was already complete. If someone came along who added value to the life I rebuilt from ashes, great. If not, also great. And the more I glowed in this space of self-worth, the more he sulked. He told everyone who'd listen that I used him, that I took everything and moved on too fast. Too fast, I gave him 10 years, 10 years of loyalty, patience, belief, and blind forgiveness. He gave me betrayal wrapped in a champagne flute on our anniversary. So no, I didn't move on too fast, I moved on exactly when I should've, the moment I remembered who I was without him dragging me down. Now he gets to sit in the ruins of his decisions while I dance in the home I turned into my sanctuary. I didn't need revenge, I just needed peace, and I claimed it, unapologetically. This is my life now, and I'm living it on my terms. It happened at a mutual friend's event, a gallery opening in the city. I hadn't planned to go, but something told me it was time. I'd been avoiding the overlap for months, letting him lurk in his pity party while I moved in circles he no longer belonged to. But that night, I felt different. Unshakable. A force. I wore red, bold, deliberate, the same shade I'd once been told was too loud for someone like me. I walked in like I owned the place, not because I was arrogant, but because I was finally free. He saw me across the room, and it was like watching a glass shatter in slow motion. His expression cracked. His smile twitched. His drink trembled slightly in his hand. I saw him whisper something to a friend, probably the same recycled lies about how I ruined him, but no one was listening anymore, because the room? It didn't tilt in his favor like it used to. People didn't orbit around him, they glanced, nodded, and moved on. And me? I was the one people came to speak to. I was the one drawing attention, not because I needed it, but because peace has a glow you can't fake. He cornered me by the wine bar, all fake calm and twitchy hands. "Claire," he started, voice low and brittle, "you really think you're better off?" I sipped my drink and raised an eyebrow. "I don't think. I know." He let out a dry, bitter laugh. "You're not the same." "Exactly," I replied. "I'm not the woman who begged to be seen. I'm the woman who left when she finally saw herself." His mask slipped then. "You used me. You took everything. My house, my contacts. Your choices," I cut in, cool and clear. "I took nothing you didn't throw away." People were starting to notice. The gallery had quieted slightly around us. His voice was rising, emotions bubbling into a tantrum he couldn't control. "Everyone thinks you're some kind of hero now," he snapped, "but they don't know what you're really like." I stepped in closer, voice low but firm. "No, you don't know what I'm really like. You knew the version of me who stayed silent to keep the peace. The woman who downplayed her success to protect your ego. That Claire is gone. And the woman standing in front of you now? She doesn't owe you understanding." He stared at me like he didn't recognize what he was looking at. And maybe he didn't, maybe he never had. He walked away after that, stormed out, actually. Red-faced, muttering something about betrayal, about how I left him stuck in a life he couldn't manage. It was the loudest silence I'd ever heard, but I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I didn't chase him, because the truth is, that night wasn't about him. It was about me standing in a room full of art, knowing I'd become my greatest masterpiece. I had rebuilt my life. He had ruined his. He gave me divorce papers as a punchline. Now I was the headline, and not because I sought revenge, but because I found peace, not public success, private peace, the kind of peace that comes from surviving something meant to break you, and becoming someone so strong that even your past can't look you in the eye. And as I left the gallery, heels clicking against the marble floor, I smiled to myself, not for what I'd lost, but for everything I'd finally gained.